Okay, this is Catullus 36, and essentially what has happened here, what must have happened, is that Catullus and Lesbia have had some kind of fight or falling out, and at some point in their argument, or maybe she sent him a letter, Lesbia has told Catullus that she is going to basically sacrifice the writings of the worst poet to to the gods of the underworld so that they could uh, come to an agreement and he can stop writing terrible things about her. So he's making a play on this, and he's decided. Of course, she's when she's talking about the worst poet, she's talking about him. But he's decided that no, no, no. The worst poet is this guy named Volusius. Um, he is a guy who writes some annales, some annals, a verse chronicle. So here we go. Catullus says, Annals of Volusius, Cacata Carta. Now I got to be a little bit PG here. The real meaning is probably more R-rated, but essentially this means like sheets of papyrus, and this means having been expelled as excrement. So papyrus expelled as excrement. This is how he describes the Annales of Volusius, and he's addressing them. This is in the vocative here, Annales. He says solvete. So we've seen this as loosen, but here it probably means like fulfill. So fulfill the vow of my girlfriend, maybe my girl at this point, maybe not girlfriend. For to, so this is dative here, to sacred Venus and Cupid, she has vowed. So she has vowed them to sacred Venus and Cupid. If, and we have a conditional here, if I would be restored to her, and if I would, and this is from decino, decinera, and we saw this verb before. It means to stop or to desist, and it takes an infinitive. If I would stop hurling or throwing fierce invectives, yams. So poetry, verse, and iambic pentameter, and that is poetry that usually is pretty scathing. So fierce or vicious yams. So she has vowed that poetry of the worst poet to sacred Venus and Cupid if I would be restored to her, if I would be reconciled to her, and if I would stop hurling vicious yams. And then we have the electissima, the choicest, the most chosen of the worst poet. So these are genitive. And then we get the most chosen writings of the worst poet. To the slow-footed god. So we're talking about Vulcan. Remember, Vulcan is supposed to have had a lame foot. And then we have daturam, and this is our signal that really we should assume daturam esse as an infinitive in an indirect statement. And the other thing, because of the feminine ending, we would assume that she is the subject. So we've got to supply two words here. Say, because she vowed that she, so the reflexive say as the subject of daturam, and then esse here to be an infinitive. So she has vowed that she, daturam, would give the choicest writings of the worst poet to Vulcan, to the slow-footed god. And then here we have essentially a future passive participle. You see the nd here, and we commonly refer to this as a gerund or a gerundive. But here it really does not so much have any kind of gerundive force, but it has a participial force because it's describing the scripta. So these writings to be burned or charred, and its future and passive in force. So that she would give these choicest writings of the worst poet to Vulcan to be charred by unlucky wood, propitious or something like that, unproductive wood maybe. And she saw the girl rather, and notice that now she's the pessima puella. This worst girl saw that she, and we have this here, which is the prayer, but we don't know exactly what it's doing yet. So the worst girl saw that she, we must need an infinitive here because we have a second direct object, playfully and charmingly, and here's your infinitive, vowed. So the worst girl saw that she vowed, made this vow, vowed this thing, playfully and charmingly to the gods.